My name is Jake, and I'm 29 years old. For as long as I can remember, I've been the black sheep of my family. Not for any real reason, at least. Not one I could ever understand. My parents always favored my younger brother, Ryan, and my older sister, Emily. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't one of those situations where you grow up and only later realize something was off. No, I knew from the time I was a kid. Birthdays forgotten. Achievements brushed aside. Punishments harsher for me than for them. It was just how things were. When I graduated high school with honors, my dad barely looked up from his newspaper. But when Ryan passed with average grades a couple of years later, they threw him a massive party. When Emily got her first job, they raved about how successful she was going to be. When I landed a great position in my field and started earning good money, my mom's only comment was, "Well, at least you won't be asking us for anything." Funny how that worked out. Because despite being the one they cared for the least, I was the one they always turned to when they needed something. And they needed a lot. Ryan had a habit of quitting jobs whenever he got bored. Emily liked living beyond her means, maxing out credit cards on expensive vacations and designer bags. And my parents, well, they weren't exactly great with money either. So, guess who they called whenever things got tight? Jake. Can you help Ryan with rent this month? Jake. We just need a little loan to cover Emily's car payment. Jake. Your father and I are struggling with the mortgage. Just this once? I was a fool. I helped them. Every time. I convinced myself they'd finally appreciate me if I proved I wasn't just the forgotten son. If I proved I could be useful. And for a while, it worked. They treated me better, not with love, not the way they did Ryan and Emily, but at least with some level of respect. But that was only when I was giving. The moment I hesitated, the moment I needed anything from them, it was like I had asked for the world. Jake, why are you being so selfish? We're family. You make the most money out of all of us. Why are you acting like this? Oh, come on. You know we'd do the same for you. They wouldn't. They never had. Still, I played my role. I told myself that maybe this was just how families worked. Maybe I was the problem for expecting things to be different. That changed last summer. We were supposed to go on a family vacation. It had been planned for months. My parents, Ryan, Emily, their spouses, their kids, everyone was going. And for once, I was actually looking forward to it. It wasn't even about the trip itself. It was about the fact that they had invited me. They had included me, genuinely, in something that almost never happened. The plan was to meet at my parents' house in the morning, leave our cars there, and drive together to the airport. I had even taken care of a few expenses, booking an upgraded rental and covering some extra costs for the trip, because, of course, none of them had saved enough for it. I woke up early that day, packed my bags, and headed over, feeling something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. When I pulled into the driveway, something felt off. The house was too quiet. No rushing around, no last-minute packing chaos. Just stillness. I knocked. No answer. I pulled out my phone and checked my messages, wondering if they had changed plans. Nothing. Then my phone rang. It was Emily. She was laughing before I even answered. "Oh, Jake. I was wondering when you'd call." My stomach twisted. "Where is everyone?" "Oh, didn't you get the message? We left early. Mom and Dad didn't think you'd mind staying back, just in case. Someone needed to take care of the house and, oh, right, we left Max there too. He loves you, doesn't he? Max, their golden retriever. They had left me behind to dog sit while they were off on a cruise. The trip I had helped pay for." My mouth went dry. "You're joking." "Oh, don't be so dramatic." Emily scoffed. "We'll bring you back something nice, okay? Gotta go, service is spotty out here." And just like that, the call ended. I stood there, gripping my phone, staring at the locked door of my parents' house. I wasn't even surprised. I should have been, but I wasn't. Because this was exactly the kind of thing they would do. And for the first time in my life, I felt something shift. A cold, quiet realization settled in my chest. They had taken and taken and taken from me for years. They had used me, dismissed me, treated me like nothing more than a wallet and an afterthought. And now? Now, they were about to learn what it felt like when I finally stopped giving. After I stood there in the driveway for a few moments, trying to process everything, my emotions started to simmer: anger, betrayal, frustration. The cool morning air didn't help clear my head. If anything, it only made me feel more isolated. I had been a fool, hadn't I? All this time, I thought I was doing something good for them, being the dependable son, the brother who would always have their backs. But when it came time for them to show even a tiny bit of appreciation, I was nothing. Not even worth telling that they had changed the plan. I was about to leave when I remembered the one thing they always asked of me. Can you take care of Max for us? They had always known I had a soft spot for the dog. I'd walked him, fed him, played with him every time they went on vacation. It was always me who took care of their responsibilities when they were busy living their lives, and Max had become a part of that. But this time, things were different. I walked into the house, and Max was there, wagging his tail like nothing was wrong. He didn't know any better. I couldn't look at him and just leave him there, but I couldn't stay either. Not after what they had done. I needed to make a decision. Fast. I grabbed a pen and some paper, sitting down at the kitchen table. The room felt emptier than it ever had before. I couldn't avoid this any longer. I owed them nothing. I had spent so much of my time, my energy, and my money trying to be a good son, a good brother, and in the end, I was just a backup plan. I had nothing left to give. So I wrote it all down. Dear Mom, Dad, Emily, and Ryan, I'm sure you're all having a great time on your cruise. I bet the relaxation is well earned. I hope you get some sun, have fun, and forget about the little things at home, like, I don't know, the house or Max, or the fact that I was left behind without even a heads up. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. But more than that, I'm done. I've been paying your bills, covering expenses, handling your financial burdens for years now, and I'm done. Every time you needed something, I gave. And each time, I was treated like an afterthought. The moment I needed help, no one was there. So, it's time I stopped being the safety net. I'm ending all financial support from this point forward. You'll need to figure it out on your own from now on. I've already made arrangements for Max. He's staying with the neighbors until you get back. I'm sure they'll take good care of him, as they're much more responsible than I ever was when it came to your family. Enjoy the rest of your trip. Jake. I stared at the note for a moment longer, my hand still gripping the pen. I wasn't expecting any kind of response. I had been pushed to my limit, and there was nothing left to say. I folded the note carefully, grabbed Max's leash, and slipped out the front door. I walked down the street to the neighbor's house, hoping they would be home. They were nice people, quiet, friendly, and always willing to help out when needed. I had never asked them for anything before, but this time was different. I knocked on their door, and Mrs. Thompson answered. Hey, Jake, she said, surprised but smiling. Everything okay? Hey, Mrs. Thompson. Yeah, everything's fine. I need a favor. Her smile faltered slightly, but she still nodded. Of course. What's going on? I looked down at Max, who was wagging his tail happily, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my life. I need someone to look after Max for a bit. My family left on their vacation without even telling me. They didn't need me, but they still left me to watch their dog. I paused, trying to keep my voice steady. Would you mind taking him in until they get back? I can't be here right now. Mrs. Thompson's eyes softened, and she reached down to pet Max, of course, Jake. I'll take care of him. You know that. You've helped us before, and we've got plenty of space for him. No problem at all. I handed her the leash and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Thanks. I really appreciate it. She gave me a reassuring smile. You're welcome. Go take care of yourself, okay? I nodded, forcing a smile, and turned back toward my parents' house. I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want anything to do with them. As I walked away, I felt the familiar sting of betrayal, but this time, I didn't let it consume me. This was the beginning of the end. I was done being the fall guy, the one who always helped when no one else cared. I didn't care how they felt when they got back. They would see the note, they'd find out I was done, and they'd feel the weight of their choices. And I would be free. But as I reached my car, something gnawed at me. A sense of unease. What would they do when they came back and found my note? How would they react to me cutting them off for good? I had no idea, but I was about to find out. I drove back to my apartment, trying not to dwell on the anger building in my chest. I had made my decision, but I had no clue how far it would take me. I knew I had made the right choice, but that didn't mean the road ahead would be easy. As I pulled into my parking spot and turned off the engine, I thought about the note one last time. The finality of it settled in. No more backing down. No more giving in. They would regret this. And by the time they figured out what had happened, it would be too late. When I left the note, I made sure to leave it somewhere obvious, somewhere they couldn't ignore it. I placed it on the kitchen table, right next to the coffee maker, something that would guarantee they'd see it the moment they walked through the door. I couldn't be there when they read it. I wanted them to feel the weight of it, to absorb the impact without me in the room to soften the blow. I wanted to be far enough away to let the panic set in, but close enough to see the fallout. It took about 3 days before they finally came back. In the meantime, I didn't hear a word from them. The silence was deafening, and part of me almost felt a pang of guilt. But then I reminded myself that this had been a long time coming. I had given them so much. Too much. I had spent years covering their expenses, bailing them out of bad situations, and shouldering the burden of their irresponsible spending. And for what? So they could leave me behind on a family vacation without a second thought? So they could mock me behind my back while they made all their plans without considering what I might want or need. The truth was, I had never been more exhausted of being their fallback. I wasn't going to be their ATM anymore. I wasn't going to be the person they came to when they needed help, but never bothered to think about when they were making their plans. I checked my phone. Nothing. I wasn't sure what to expect when they got back, but it certainly wasn't the silence I was hearing. I figured they'd at least call me to ask where I was, or to demand an explanation for the note. But nothing. The whole situation felt strange. Like they were pretending everything was normal and I was the one in the wrong. Soon enough, they called me. Jake. My dad's voice was a mix of confusion and frustration, as if I had done something wrong by not being there. Where are you? Jake. My mom's voice followed, this time with a hint of worry creeping in. Where is he? Then, a moment of silence, followed by Emily's voice. Wait, what's this? My sister, Emily, sounded confused, and I could hear the rustling of paper. Then came the silence again, but this time it was thick with uncertainty. My mom's voice returned, only quieter than before. What is this? Is this a joke? I waited, listening intently. Jake wouldn't. He wouldn't do this, my dad muttered, though it was clear that he didn't believe it himself. No way. Then, the sound of footsteps as they moved toward the kitchen. I couldn't see them, but I could hear the quiet panic building with every step. I had written it plainly, and I knew it would hit hard. It was direct. I wasn't playing games anymore. The words on the note would make them face the reality of their situation. I'm ending all financial support from this point forward. You'll need to figure it out on your own. I've already made arrangements for Max. He's staying with the neighbors until you get back. I heard my dad's voice again, this time more frantic. What is this supposed to mean? We need you. We've spent so much money already. You think we can just pay for everything ourselves? My sister, Emily, joined in, her voice tinged with disbelief. Are you seriously just going to leave us high and dry like this? After all we've done for you? You think we can afford this vacation without you? I could hear the panic rising in their voices, and it was like a wave crashing against me. They were scrambling, trying to make sense of my decision, but I knew it wouldn't matter. The words were already out there. They couldn't take them back. The worst part? They didn't seem to care that they'd left me behind. Not once had anyone said, hey, maybe we shouldn't have done that to Jake. No. They were mad because I wasn't doing what they wanted. They were mad because I had drawn a line in the sand. After a few moments of stunned silence, the voices started again, this time louder, more frantic. Jake, this is insane. My dad shouted. We're family. You can't just leave us like this. You're being ridiculous, Emily snapped. What do you expect us to do now? You think we just pull money out of thin air? This is your fault. You've always had money, Jake, always had the answers. And now you're just done, I interrupted, my voice coming through the phone, cold and final. They froze. Done? What do you mean, done? My mom asked, sounding shocked, almost hurt. This is crazy, Jake. We don't have anyone else to turn to. You can't just leave us to fend for ourselves. I leaned back against the couch, feeling a wave of satisfaction that was slowly being replaced by the weight of my decision. It was what needed to be done, but now, hearing them like this, part of me almost felt sorry for them. Almost. I'm not your backup anymore. Figure it out, I said calmly. You've had years to make better decisions. Now you'll deal with the consequences. I hung up. They came to me, of course. I knew they would. They always did when they needed something. But I wasn't going to answer the phone, not this time. I let them panic. I let them suffer through it for a while. I wasn't in the mood to listen to their excuses or their pleas. But deep down, part of me couldn't help but feel like they were making this harder than it had to be. I wasn't asking for much. I wasn't asking for their gratitude or even their understanding. All I had ever wanted was to be treated like more than just a safety net. They had used me for too long. Now, they were on their own. I was done being the person they could always fall back on. If they wanted to survive without me, they had to learn the hard way. And that, I thought, was exactly what they deserved. A couple of days passed before they showed up at my door. I wasn't surprised. It was only a matter of time. I knew they wouldn't just let this go. They'd come to beg, to try and guilt-trip me into taking them back, into giving them the support they had come to expect from me for so long. The knock on the door was sharp and insistent, and for a moment, I almost considered ignoring it. Let them stand out there for a while. Let them feel the weight of their own choices. But I'd done that already. It was time to face them. I opened the door to see my parents standing there, their faces flushed with anger and frustration. Emily was there too, standing off to the side, arms crossed, her usual defiance replaced with something closer to desperation. They were all there, all the people who had never once appreciated what I had done for them, now standing in my doorway, looking like they had nowhere else to go. "Jake," my dad started, his voice tight. "We need to talk." I stepped back, letting them in without a word. If they wanted to talk, they could do it on my terms now. No more fake pleasantries, no more excuses. I had spent too long being their doormat. They weren't getting any more free passes. Once they were all inside, they stood there awkwardly for a moment. My dad glanced around the living room, his eyes flicking to the empty spots where the things they used to take for granted were now gone. My sister's gaze shifted between me and the surroundings, but I could see that she was too proud to speak first. It was always like that. She never could admit when she was wrong. And my mom, she was the first to break the silence. "Jake, we don't understand," she said, her voice softer now, though it was still tinged with frustration. This is ridiculous. We are family. You can't just walk away from us like this. After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me." I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. "What have you done for me exactly? Let me think. You've used me for money. You've expected me to drop everything when you need help, but when it's my turn to ask for something, I'm ignored or dismissed as the problem." I didn't raise my voice, but I could feel the weight of each word hitting harder than any shout could. This wasn't about me being angry anymore. This was about me finally standing up for myself. "You think I owe you something because you're my family?" I continued, my voice steady, though my heart was pounding in my chest. "You think that means I should just let you walk all over me because we are related? That's not how this works. That's never how it's worked." My mom opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off, raising my hand. "You had all the chances in the world to fix this. You had years to be better, to not use me like a cash machine, to not make me feel like I'm the one who has to carry everyone's weight while you sit back and spend my money on your vacations, your new cars, and whatever else you wanted. But you didn't care, did you?" I could feel the shift in the room. My dad's face, usually so certain and proud, was starting to crumble. Emily looked away, guilt starting to creep in around the edges of her tough exterior. She had always sided with them, always found ways to make me the scapegoat. But now, the realization was setting in that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the villain here. My dad cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "Jake, this is unfair. We've always been there for you, through everything. We've supported you. You've used me," I interrupted. "And the worst part is, you don't even realize it. You think I'm supposed to just forgive you because you're my parents? Because you're my sister? No. I've been carrying this family for too long, and I'm done." A heavy silence fell over the room. My parents were frozen, caught in the web of their own selfishness, and Emily, standing in the corner, looked like she was about to say something. Probably something defensive, something to justify everything they'd done, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. I wasn't here to listen to excuses anymore. "I'm done," I said, taking a deep breath. "I'm done being the one you come to when you mess up. I'm done bailing you out. I'm done carrying your weight. If you want to keep acting like I'm just your personal bank account, then you're going to have to do it without me. But I'm not giving you a cent, not anymore." It felt liberating, the weight lifting off my shoulders as I spoke the words that had been building up inside me for years. For so long, I had been too afraid to say what needed to be said, too afraid that if I stood up for myself, I'd lose my family. But the truth was, I had already lost them. They had lost me the moment they started treating me like an afterthought. "You can't do this, Jake," Emily said, her voice trembling slightly. She was no longer the smug sister who thought everything revolved around her. Now, she was just a daughter and a sister who had pushed her luck too far. "You're not being fair. You've always been the one to fix things. You're the one who always comes through." "Well, not anymore," I said simply. "I'm not going to be your crutch. You're going to have to learn how to stand on your own. For a moment, the room was silent again. My parents were staring at me, their expressions a mix of shock, disbelief, and something else, regret, maybe. But it was too late for that now. They had made their choices. They had treated me like a tool, not a person, and now I was walking away. My dad was the first to speak again, his voice quieter now. "Jake, please, we need you." "I'm sorry, but no," I replied, my voice firm. "You need to figure things out for yourselves. You've had every opportunity to do the right thing, and now it's too late." They stood there for a long moment, looking like they had been punched in the gut. I could see the realization dawning on their faces, and part of me almost felt bad for them, but not enough to change my mind. "This is what happens when you treat people like they don't matter," I said, my voice softening, but not my resolve. "You don't get to just come back and expect everything to be okay because you're my family. That's not how respect works. You've lost it." They didn't say anything else. There was nothing left to say. I watched them walk out the door, heads hanging low, their pride shattered in ways they never saw coming. I didn't feel satisfaction or triumph. In fact, I felt empty. But it was the right thing to do. I spent the next few hours pacing around my house, trying to clear my mind, trying to figure out if I had made the right call. The silence that followed felt like a weight, but deep down, I knew I had made a decision I wouldn't regret. I finally sat down at my desk and pulled up this post. I'm not sure if I told the story the way I wanted to, or if I had even done the right thing. But I wanted to hear from you all. Was I wrong to cut them off? Did I go too far? Or did I finally stand up for myself the way I should have all along? I'd really like to hear your thoughts.